So this is, as Jürgen already showed, it's the home page of the European Drought Observatory, from where you can see the last CDI images available just as display, and then on the bottom side you can see all the tools that are available, or the tool and dataset that are available on the system that we'll go through live. So the main tool of the system is what we call the map viewer, which is we can access directly from here, or okay, we already opened the page. So this is how the map viewer looks like when you assess the system for the first time. It always shows the combined drought indicator for the last available decade. And for this tool, we decided it would be nice to look at one specific event. So follow one specific event, which is the drought of the last summer in 2018 in Central and Northern Europe, because I guess most of you are familiar with this event. It's quite relatively recent, so you can recall the really dry summer of last year, also associated with a couple of heat waves events. And so we will look at this event, and we will show all the tools that are available in OiEau to inquire the events, look at the temporal evolution, and analyze the data that are available for the events. So first thing that we can do is to look at the combined drought indicator. We can look at those indicators. We can right click on the dates and select a different time scale, so we can move on another period. So let's go to 2018 in August, which was the central part of the drought events. And from this map, you can already see how the CDI highlight large area affected by drought. You can see how already in central Germany, Netherlands, and Belgium, we have a lot of alerts already in August, highlighted by the red classes. Also, we have a really large spread of warnings, so almost to deficit, that are not still converted in vegetation, effect on vegetation, but still raise a lot of concern on the events. Of course, from this bar we can look at different periods, so move back and forth in time and see how these events evolve. Or specifically for CDI, we have another tool to look at the time series of the event, which is called CDI time animation, which is under drought evolution. So we can open this in another tab, where with this tool we can see the temporal evolution of the CDI on the last year. So if you click on the animation, we can see how the evolution of the drought. We can decide the speed of the animation. So this is probably some nice tool to have just a brief look on how the events evolves in terms of CDI. So we'll go back to the map viewer. Or if you are interested in a specific period, you can just select the period using this slider here. So as we showed in the presentation before, we know that the CDI is a combination of different indicators. So if you want to see exactly what is going into the CDI, so specifically the SPI, the soil moisture, the FFR, you can select this indicator from the left-hand menu, where they are grouped in different categories. So on the precipitation, we have the precipitation in the SPI. Then we have the low flow, the temperature with the heat wave index, and we have the soil moisture data. And as Carolina showed, we just moved to a new windows of the SPI. So for the moment, we have two different soil moisture datasets, one with extended windows and one with older, smaller windows. Then we have a vegetation response. So we can look at all the indicators that go into the CDI from here, or we can use another tool from under mapping drought called side-by-side maps. If we open this tool, we can see that this gives us the opportunity to look at the same time at up to 4 different maps. So we can choose again the 2018 August, refresh the maps, and as you can see, so they said that the date, and through this part of the maps, we can decide to transfer this data to all the other maps, doing like this. So you see all of the maps now refer to the same period. And by default, this system shows you the CDI on the upper left, and then the three indices that are going in the CDI. So the SPI3, the soil moisture anomalies, and the FFR anomalies. Of course, you are not, you don't need to, you can choose to look also at other indices. Like if instead of SPI3 you want to look at the SPI1, you can choose to change it and then refresh. So you will see how the SPI1 looks instead of another indices. Or you can change the period of just one of those. So let's say that you want to look at the soil moisture from a previous month instead of the current month. So you can choose also to change the period. And so this gives us a tool to look at what's entering in the CDI, what is producing those different colors in the CDI in an easy way. Another tool that we have here is this sketch option. You can turn it on by doing yes, and then we can draw on a maps an area. Let's say that we are seeing that something is going on over this part. We can draw an area with this one, and this is going to appear also on the other maps. So let's say that we notice something here. We want to see how this change on the other data. We can still see this. So as soon as we change the variable, we still keep this information on display. So this is a way to look at more than one indicator at the same time and compare the information provided by the different indices. Or if you don't want to just want to look at one indicator and not comparing the different indices, you can just use the map viewer. For instance, we can just turn it off this and go on another indicator like the SPI, and we can choose from here again on the with the right click. We can choose the period and also the different SPI indicator available. Like for instance, instead of SPI3, we can look at a more long-term SPI like the SPI6, and we can go at the end of the season. Last year,
2019,
yes. Sorry,
2018.
2019 is not available yet. So we can go at the end of the season with 6 months accumulation period, and we can see the accumulated effect of all the rainfall over Central Europe, for instance, and we can see the large deficit that was over Germany, let's say in Sweden, for instance. I guess this is the right time also to show you that if you right-click on the date over an indicator, you have a lot of other information like the layer info, for instance, that give you a brief description of the index. And under more details, if you click on more details, you can see what Jürgen introduced as the fact sheet. So this PDF with information on the index, time scale, variability, usefulness, all this kind of information that can be useful to understand better what sits inside the index. And this is available for all the variable available here. So another thing that we can show you maybe is the temperature indicator. So even if this is a drought indicator monitoring system, we have also an indicator specifically focused on heat and cold wave. This is because even if there are two different phenomena, they are often related. For instance, for the event in 2018 over Europe, there were two heat waves that occurred at the same time of the drought. So we can look at how these two information overlaps. If you go, for instance, at the beginning of August, just to stay on the same month of before, this is a daily product, so we can update this every day. We can clearly see how there was so the heat wave indicator that we have here, we didn't describe before, give us an information on the length, so on the duration of a period when the temperature goes below an unusually high condition for that specific area and that specific period. So in this case, we can see how there were over Finland, there were for more than 10 days temperature that were well above the usual extreme high temperature for that area. And then we can see the temporal and spatial evolution of this index by just changing the date. We can see how quite well actually, how the heat front moves down, go down to also to the Mediterranean country. Here on this specific date, we can see how over Portugal and Spain, there is also this icon that highlight extreme temperature, which means that this is not only unusual for the area, but it's also quite high as temperature. We have a threshold of 40 degrees, so this means that it's an extreme condition for this area, it's also above 40 degrees. So it can be start to have effect, negative effect on human also and population. So another indicator that we haven't seen yet, it's the low flow index, which is actually quite nice to show now, since it's vectorial information, so it's easy to overlap over other maps. Let's go again on the event of 2018. So as discussed by Carolina before, we know that hydrological drought usually respond a little bit slower in terms of drought. So this is why I choose, for instance, October in this date instead of August, because the response is a little bit slower. So we saw the effect on river discharge a little bit later. So you can see how the river network is highlighted, and the different color scale give you an idea on the severity of the drought for that segment. Also here on the left part of the menu, you can see there is a list of rivers that are affected on this specific date. So from this list, you can use the lens to zoom in on a specific river, or you can click the eye to have information on one of the rivers. Also, I guess now it's a good moment to show you that if you want a set of information on special maps, you want information on a specific site, you can use this tool called Identify, where you can select a point, click on this point, and then you can see that it gives you information on the coordinate, and then you can open these tabs where you have information on this specific point or all the drought indicator available for that point. So you can see how the combined indicator is in this class, the precipitation, the FPR anomalies, and all this information are available there. Also the low flow index, all the segments that are close to that point, with the average flow for that segment and the value of the low flow index. So this is a tool that you can use if you want to inquire a specific point, if you're interested on a specific area. Also, since we're looking at the low flow index, it's useful to show you that there are some geographic background that can be added to the maps. So these are the default information, but we can add other information like river, lakes, urban area, town. One that's probably interesting in case of low flow index is the Reef and Basin District from the Water Framework Directive. So you can see that it's just a visualization of where the water districts are, and it can help you to better interpret the information that you have in terms of river flow. So are just auxiliary information that you can look at. And also, in addition to the inquiry that give you information of specific point, but just for this time, we have another tool that's called time series that you can access from the upper left corner. So again, with this tool, you can select a point from the map. Let's choose another point. And we can select one indicator, only one in this case, like the moisture anomalies or the SPI. Let's look at SPI 6, for instance. You can choose the period, 2018. And then you can plot the data on this page that show you this index for that specific point. If you want to compare more than one index instead of just one on the indicator, there is another tool that is called multiple indicator that you can access from here or from the drought evolution tab time series. Let's do this. So this open another tool that gives you a little bit more advanced option instead of just showing a single indicator. And from here you can choose again a point just from the coordinate, or if you click on advanced option, again clicking on a point, or from a nearby town, for instance. In this case, just go for coordinates. We can stay in Germany since we saw that there were some events in Germany, so we can choose like, I don't know, 5210 should be somewhere in Germany. Let's choose again the 2018, and then in this case we can choose more than one index. So let's say we want to look at the SPI 3 and the soil moisture anomalies, for instance. And then we can draw the graph. And this should show the time series for this specific site of these two variables, which is actually quite nice. You can see how the SPI deficit go below -1 already in May, while the soil moisture needs a little bit of time to respond to this anomaly, so it starts to be under deficit, so below -1 in July. And you can see how the temporal evolution is actually quite nice in this case. And you can change, of course, the time series. If you want to compare this event with some past events, you can go back in time, so redraw the graph. And this way, for instance, you can compare the deficit on this year with the deficit on some other previous year. Let's see how it looks like. Yeah, you can see how this event was clearly much more stronger than all the past deficit that we had at least over this point of this time span. Then let's go back to the map viewer just for one last thing. So these are all indicators that are developed in-house by us for the whole European continent. But in the system, we also incorporate some local system. So if you go on the tab Regional, National, and Local Products, you can see there is a list of regional systems that are doing their drought monitoring and that are sharing their information with us. For instance, we can look again for the Central Europe in 2019. We can look at the Czech Republic and Slovakia drought monitoring system. Again, we can select from the times. We can select 2018, and again we can go around August. In this case, the data are provided by these local authorities. So maybe the spatial resolution, the temporal resolution of the system are a little bit not perfectly in line with our data, but still there are additional information local, so probably really accurate on specific area that can be used also for cross-checking the continental scale information. For instance, this index here specifically, it's a soil moisture-based indicator. So we can check, for instance, how our system, our soil moisture index compare with their index on the specific period. So let's go to the, again, 2018 August, second decade, I guess we were. So we can zoom in on the area just to look at this a little bit better. And we can, for instance, set the play on the opacity or transparency of the layer to look at the two maps at the same time. So we can see how, yeah, in this case they perform relatively close. There are some areas like this one you can see where they provide, for instance, that there is extreme condition. Maybe we were able to catch at our spatial resolution, so they give us this additional information. But the general pattern, for instance, in this case, they agree quite well. So those systems are local systems that are integrated in our system, and also they have the opportunity to have direct access to our information to inject in their system if they want. And actually on this topic, now we will have a really short presentation by Diego that will show you, if you are interested, how we can connect your data in our system and what are the requirements.